meeting to order is Thursday, February 29th, 6 p.m. A special meeting of the Economic Development Commission. Tony and Mika had asked me to kind of head up this portion of the meeting as I'm, I guess, the designated survivor with Brian is traveling this week. So very energized with a lot of the new folks joining the commission. And the first agenda item we have is just to do some introductions. So I'll go first, and then we can come up with another. My name's Scott Perdone. A lot of people know me as Joy's husband. We've been Woodbridge residents for, this is 11 years. My background, I own a number of Supercuts franchises across the state, pretty much everywhere but Fairfield County, including 3 right here near us. Prior to that, I was in corporate America for 25 years as a marketing, branding, advertising person. Did that for a number of different consumer products. Started my career in Milford with Bic and Schick. So that's kind of my background. And daughter Claire's at Amity Middle School, Bethany, 8th grade. So Scott?
Sure. So I don't know how we're going to work that out, Scott and Scott, but
right.
I'm Scott Hunter. I grew up in the town. I think we came in about the late 60s. My father came. He's still here. He's at Milford Side, though, unfortunately. I have my wife is, I'm known as the husband of Kathy Hunter, and we have 2 children. My career was at Yale University for most of it. I practiced law before that, never got it right, and so I decided to work at Yale, and worked in the investments office and retired sort of happily in 2019, and did a few gigs after that at Vanguard and Fairfield County's Community Foundation, but now looking forward to being here. This should be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My name is Rick Bordeaux. I'm a Woodbridge resident for the past 24 years. I am actually an Amity graduate myself, so I've been around for a while. My family, my wife grew up here in Woodbridge. We met at Amity, and so we've been Woodbridge residents for a very long time. I am currently an Amity teacher. So I am a social studies teacher at Amity. I have a political science major with an econ minor, so I feel I can bring a little level of expertise there. So of course I teach psychology at Amity because they needed somebody to teach psychology. But I've been doing that. I've been doing that for a while. Teaching is a second career for me. My first career, I was in market research, designing surveys for companies, political candidates early on. So that's my background.
Speaking of which, Rick actually assisted the EDC in some surveys previously. As a matter of fact,
Yes, that is
Fantastic.
Steve?
For me, I'm Steve Francis. I also married a Woodbridge native. We've lived in town now for about 30 years. I'm just honored to be here and fortunate to be aboard. I work for Webster Bank. I'm responsible for their commercial leasing portfolio, which is about $1.5 billion in total footings, and we earn a lot of business through there, about somewhere between $90 and $100 million a month in new loans. It's a very active and a great place to work. I'm just, as I said, just really excited to be here. We have 2 children, son Patrick, who is a naval officer, and daughter Megan, who's an L1 up at Roger Williams. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. I shouldn't have skipped myself. I'm sorry, Megan Cardozo, first selectman, currently first selectman, and been in town for about 30 years as well, with my wife Patricia, who truly is the mayor of this town in a lot of ways. But very, very happy and excited to get this group together and get started again in terms of one of the very significant initiatives and things that I campaigned on in becoming first selectman. It was seeing exactly what we can do to increase and improve our business district and actually increase the amount of business that we have and try to bring a little diversity in terms of our revenue stream, and which is currently almost exclusively residential. So So I really am looking forward to working with this group, and I do feel like there's a lot of good things we can do. So thank you all.
Hello, everybody. My name is Chadi. I'm also known as Nicole's husband. Most of the people.
We're all suffering that.
Happy to be a part of the EDC. Looking forward to supporting Mika and the town's agenda, and looking forward to making the town what it could be. So my background is actually engineering. I've been an aerospace engineer for 27 years. I do have an MBA, so hopefully some of that practicality and business orientation will lend a hand here.
Thank you.
Cliff Lynch, basically lived in town my whole life, minus a few years away at college. But now with 2 kids and my wife, we want to raise them here and just do the best we can for the town. About me, I'm a funeral director for 20 years in New Haven, helped run two small businesses there. And just think that this is really the way that we need to steer some development in town in order to definitely bring the tax more into play for everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know that you gentlemen realize that what you just did in terms of your introductions was also your campaign speech. So I'm going to turn it over to Scott for the next item on the agenda.
All right, so the next item is election of an EDC chair, right? So first meeting, as we got towards the months of November and December, we had a number of folks that were terming out of the commission, so we have actually kind of been moving this process along in anticipation that there will be new members. So I want to open it up for anyone that wants to make a nomination for the chair at this time.
I nominate Scott Broom as the chair.
Second.
Okay.
Any discussion?
He's the cool kid on the block now, so I think he's well qualified. He has the experience to do it.
Okay.
Any other nominations?
Okay. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Great. All right. Excellent. That's.
You voted, correct?
I did a half of it. I got it. Was not
Just so
expecting
Tony,
that. So
that's a minutes item. So
yes.
that's definitely.
Yes. Okay. Great. So Mika, you have the next.
Now we have vice chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. And so nominations for vice chair.
I
Anyone?
nominate Scott Hunter. You're welcome.
Okay.
I'd be happy to.
Second.
Chatty will second. All in favor? Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. So those are the 2 positions, and then we'll turn it over to Mika.
Thank you all for, as I say, I'm very excited in terms of what we can do here, and I'm also very excited because we were fortunate enough, and it's truly just in terms of a program that was started through Rex, that we were able to secure the resources and the assistance of Dale Krupp, who is here today, and Dale is going to give us an overview in terms of what I asked him to do is come in and help us establish ourselves as a commission with more or less understanding what we should be looking at, what we should be prioritizing, and how to organize and set some objectives that we need to go over. So we'll call it, in a sense, and it's EDC 101 overview that Dale will provide. A couple of things that I did want to mention. There's a number of things we'll go over as far as the menu, as far as the agenda is concerned. I'm hungry, so menu. But I did want to also mention just one thing that'll be part of my talk here, and we'll get into it a little bit more detail probably at another meeting since it's not on the agenda here. But just recently, this is like yesterday and today, just recently one of the business owners in town brought to my attention, Jim Urbano, who is the developer of the development where the saloon and the right approach are, indicated to me that the 240 Amity Road property is going up for sale, and that's where currently we have the business where they sell the trailers. And And it presents an opportunity, like any sale, and what I'd like to view as any sale in our business district, we should collectively look at as an opportunity. One of the things we'll be talking today is about the tax incentives, and I think this affords us an immediate opportunity. I haven't even told you about this, Dale, I'm sorry. Immediate opportunity to kind of look at this. I did reach out to the broker, just to let him know that the town is interested in at least talking to him and seeing what we need to do in order to make this an attractive opportunity for somebody who will develop and/or improve the property, and do something maybe that's a little different than what's currently there. So that's just something that I wanted to mention so that we keep that in mind, and that's as you do your presentation and as we ask some questions and as we review the tax incentive information that everybody was sent, it gives you an opportunity to put something. This is a real case, and this is something that we can take as task one, if you will. I also wanted to.
I'm sorry, is Elm City moving the business? You said that they're not the owners of the property.
Correct. They are moving, from what I understand, they're moving into Bethany, is what I
Oh, okay.
what I
Okay.
had heard. But yes, they will be moving they will be moving their business.
Okay. Sorry.
I also wanted to ask if I was successful in overwhelming you with the amount of information I had Tony send you.
you
I
did.
really worked hard to
Nice
do
job.
that, so, you know.
You were successful.
So I do know that it was a significant amount of information, but what I wanted you to understand that this is what's going on, this is the information, particularly the 2030 information. It's not anything I wanted you to study and come in with, but I did want you to have it so that you can reference it and you can understand what's some of the things that are going on down there. We're close to, we've already submitted for a locked SIP, which is a Department of Transportation grant that in the amount of, in excess of $11 million for doing some things that are related to doing the things that the 2030 committee actually developed in terms of ideas and strategies and placemaking and things of that nature. So there are some, again, real opportunities that we have to make some impact here. And this team is going to, I believe, is going to be integral in a lot of what we do there. So I don't want to go too long, and I know Dale has a presentation, and I think, as I say, that's going to hopefully provide us some information as relates to direction and objective, and just how we go about doing the things we did. What I'd like to avoid is I don't want us to just broadly think, okay, we've got to improve the business climate, but rather strategically think about the particular steps that we need to take to achieve a particular goal. And so I think it's going to be important that we establish what we want to do along those lines, and that we work toward those specific goals. And our focus will be commercial, but it's not exclusive to commercial. Obviously, it's really to make sure we consider everything that we can from the perspective of growing the town and growing our tax base. So, any questions that you gentlemen might have in regards to, from my, for me, or for just a general information?
Not immediately.
Okay. All right, then, Tony, I didn't forget anything that I said I would mention?
I think you covered it.
Thank you, I appreciate it. All right, with that, then I believe I'll turn it back over to Scott, the chair.
Okay, great. So next agenda item that we have, we will turn it over to Dale.
Perfect. You hear me okay? All right. In a way, I'm going to talk a little fast because I see you have other things on your agenda, and I could do this for 2 hours, literally. So anyway, I only have one of these, but several cards. I'm just going to hand this out. As Mika said, I come through Rex Development, which is the Regional Economic Development Organization for the New Haven region for 15 towns. And the scope on this card, the long card, comes through the Council of Governments, and it's for on-call economic development services. So we'll get into that in a second. My background, and the main reason I'm telling you so you get a picture of the kinds of things I've worked on, it might pique your interest in certain areas. So since 2020, I've been a consultant, working all over New England, actually. But prior to that, I was the Economic Development Director in Hamden for 21 years, and as I told Mika, I worked for 6 mayors. And nobody got rid of me, so something must have went right. And before that, for about 14 years, 16 years, I worked as a consultant for a civil engineering company, doing a lot of writing grants for municipal projects, economic development, housing, senior centers, community centers, you name it. So, so my background is broad, and for the last 25 years, I've been very involved with brownfield, with contaminated properties. I run a brownfield land bank. So, you know, the reason I'm telling you this, I've kind of touched all the bases with economic development, some of the things that are going to be on the slide. And in Hamden, we did lots of things, particularly with incentives. So when we, you know, when you get to that later, I have, you know, something to offer. As we go through this slide presentation, don't look at them. They're in your folder. They're for you to take home. I'd rather just talk with you about the stuff that's on the slides. It's really to sort of, as Mika said, sort of give you a direction and maybe start to prioritize the things that you're going to focus on. Some of it is like really obvious. You want to grow your grand list, keep taxes stable, and that's certainly an important part about it. But to do that, there's other things that you can think about doing as a new commission. And what's great is you have a fresh start. My services are available till June 30th. And Mika, there's a big talk going on about, you know, extending into next fiscal year. For the whole fiscal year, we have to talk to the boss there to secure the funding, but it's probably going to continue somewhat. And I can come every month to your meeting if you'd like, you know, to kind of pick up where we left off, to help focus. As we talk about some of the sort of the pillars of economic development, you know, I'll spend a little more time on those tonight because I would come back another time and maybe focus on one pillar. And of all the services that I can provide, whether it's helping with an economic development related grant or to work with you, right now I'm actively working in about 4 or 5 of the towns. So everybody wants something a little bit different, and you know, I might reference that as we're talking because it might pique your interest in some areas. Turn the lights off, or
Yeah, they're over here, Dale. And, you know, if you want, you probably do best if you guys over here, if you want to move into this place where you can see better. You're right.
please, no, you're good. You can just kind of turn
Enough, or
around.
is that,
So this is, as he said, it's really, it's sort of a 101, but it's really a 102 or a 201, depending on how you want to look at it. And I just want to also mention that I've been in the field of economic and community development, not just economic development. I've developed at a community-wide level, looking at things sort of holistically in a community, and economic development is no exception. So the title of this is, as you see, the role and responsibility of the team. Trying to do this multitask here, so I'm, oops, I went too fast, forgive me. Okay, so, you know, there's a million definitions of economic development. The one on the top is through the IEDC, which is the International Economic Development Group. So they have to like appeal to like tens of thousands of people. It's really what it means to you in your community. So that's the official definition on the top. It's pretty all-inclusive, I would say. It includes everything. The one on the bottom is like my favorite one. I've read, you know, hundreds of them. This is from a guy in Tennessee who works for a small development corporation, and I like that because it's nice and simple. You want to grow your community, raise standard of living, create jobs, attract investment, and I also add build wealth in your community for younger families that are coming in to your town, because they're going to be the taxpayers 10 years from now. We talk about high school or college age people because you want to help them build the wealth and stay in the community where they grew up or where they might invest. Okay. So, it's really a team sport. A lot of people in sort of old school way of thinking of economic development, you know, the bunch of, and some of you are bankers, so don't take this the wrong way. There's, you know, bankers and accountants and business owners, but really when you look at economic development commissions now and the successful programs, it incorporates lots of different people and people from all different backgrounds because you're all interested in the same thing, to make your community a better place. So whether it's on the commission or associated with plans that you may have, you really want to touch bases with a lot of the folks on this list. And everything I say to you tonight is you don't have to do all these things. You have to kind of just get a sense of the kinds of people that you want to work with, and you know, I'll touch on some of the reasons why. So for example, as you go down, obviously you want to have the elected officials on your team. your boards and commissions, some, and historically, economic development commissions and planning and zoning commissions were sort of like, opposite ends of the same, thing. But in fact, they should be working together, and I'm gonna get into that a little bit later on. When you skip down to schools and universities, why would that be important? Well, that relates to your workforce, primarily. So schools and universities, whether it's your public school system or all the colleges that are in this region, Yale, UNH, Southern, Albertus, Gateway, they're the ones that are training the people that will feed your industries. Because if you poll anybody in the business community, pretty much no matter what cluster you're talking about, healthcare, manufacturing, they all have the same most important need: workers, getting people that are qualified to do the job. Yeah, they're concerned about debt and taxes and school systems and all those things. They're all important. But workers is usually the number one thing in the last 5 years. So having these folks associated with what you're doing, chambers of commerce, again, old school, they have your business after hours and little mushrooms and, glasses of wine at their events, but really they're there for business retention reasons, and that's really important.
So Dale, question real fast?
Yeah.
So are you talking about retention of people graduating out of local universities in the
That's
area?
part of it, yes. When it comes to having them being involved in it,
Got it.
keeping them in the region. So Southern, for example, I went to Southern multiple times, as a matter of fact. I had my bachelor's and master's there. 85% of Southern students stay in Connecticut, all the state universities. So, you have to look at the field. People that go to Yale, you want them in your community. Very often they're going to go, they're going to go elsewhere. So let me just go on to the next one. Again, I'm trying to preserve some time. So in terms of the commission and staff, every town has enough of going on or has enough of a budget to actually have a staff person. That's why, for now, I am your staff person for now. If Mika calls me up and says there's a business looking at this site where the business is leaving, they're asking for an incentives, could you listen into this or read it? I'm available to be a resource. Ultimately, the town is going to put out an RFP. Can I mention this?
Yes.
There's an RFP out now for sort of a quasi-planner, economic developer, not a zoning person, but somebody that could really sort of be in my role on a day-to-day basis, and they're budgeted through fiscal year 25, as I understand it. That's an RFP that's out right now that somebody could apply for to be the economic development professional in town, part-time. And you, at this point, you only need a part-time person. So I work with Mika and actually wrote the RFP that is now out there on the street. So that's an example of the kind of resource we're trying to be. So these are the things that you can do. I always encourage economic development commissions to have some sort of a written plan. It doesn't have to be, adopted by the town council or adopted by the taxpayers. It's just something, even if it's an internal document that has a mission and some goals that you can focus on. Many commissions end up having subcommittees. I'm working in Brantford, for example. Again, Brantford and Woodbridge are different. They're not hugely different in some ways, but they have a workforce committee, business retention committee, and a marketing committee. You may have something completely different, but I always encourage you to have a written, some written product to work from for setting goals, and time permitting, I would help you do that. So these are the things that a commission would do. You have all these slides, and you can kind of go through those. And some of them are obvious, and some of them may not be so obvious. Appear before other land use commissions, meetings, and president's position. You want to look and see what other commissions are doing to be aware of the fact that there might be a zone change being permitted, an overlay zone, or whatever it happens to be. Whether you take a position or not is up to you. Some economic development commissions don't want to do that. Some do want to do that. But certainly being aware of reading other people's agendas is something that is the responsibility of the commission and the staff member. So these are sort of the pillars of economic development. They are not in hierarchical, whatever the word is I'm looking for. Hierarchical. Yeah, hierarchical order. This is not like you have to do retention first, you have to do attraction second. These are just sort of the pillars, and I'm going to come back to these in some of the future slides. But the thing that people always think about with economic development, especially when a new commission is formed, is attraction. You certainly want to attract industry, businesses to your town. It's totally important. But you are not blessed with thousands of acres of land like you're in a county out in Arizona somewhere, in counties all over the United States. So attraction is important. Targeted attraction is even more important, based on the limited amount of parcels that you have in the area. I always focus on retention, because retention is sort of the bread and butter. These are the people that have been paying taxes, that have been here. And you always, when you have a retention strategy, you discover lots of new things, and I'm going to touch on that a little bit, about businesses, especially like light manufacturing and other businesses that you could help them be successful. Workforce, bringing in a workforce from, let's say, a Gateway or something like that, where they have lots of trade, trade types of programs. So I focus on retention. If you had a full-time economic development director, or even when you have your part-time person or firm that's going to be here at some point, they're going to spend 70% of their time, maybe 80% of their time, dealing with daily business things of current businesses in Woodbridge. It's just a fact. All the research shows that retention is the most time-consuming part of an economic developer's life. Business recruitment, again, it's similar to business attraction. Business creation is sort of a new pillar that we've thrown into this presentation. I've thrown into this because these are the new industries and businesses of tomorrow. These are your business incubators. These are your maker spaces. These are all the things that are new. Maker spaces, I'll talk about that, but when we get into technology transfer and artificial intelligence, that's all part of makerspace now. When people think of makerspace, they think of metal shop, wood shop. 3D printing is sort of the last innovation within within business creation. But these are the high school kids, the college kids that are creating and building things, and they're the ones that are creating new businesses. So how do you help that along as a commission? And then, of course, there's business clusters and sectors, and that's one of my favorite topics, and I will get into that. Again, I don't want to dwell on each slide. Keep you here till 10 o'clock. Okay, so customer. I'm very customer focused. As an economic developer, your customers are many. As a commission, your customers are many. You have your current businesses, of course. You have your sort of inside-outside customers. If you are the economic developer in a town, you have inside customers. Those are the people that work in the planning and zoning office, the building department, all the people that help you do your job. And it's good to make them understand what you do every day and why it's important, instead of working in silos. But there's lots of customers. You have your taxpayers. They want to know what the economic development strategy is. They may think, and the average citizen doesn't, they're not there every day. They don't see that it's important to work with, your public school system to make sure kids are ready to go to work when they graduate from college and so forth. So there's political realities, as you know. Those are your customers because they approve the budget to support your programs. As you evolve as a commission, you're going to ask Mika and the town for money to do things, especially on marketing. In Brantford, I'm going to pick a couple examples that I've seen so far in my travels since I started this back in December. Brantford gets X amount of dollars every year for marketing. I may quibble with how they spend that money because I've done it. I did it for so many years, but they're successful enough to go and then make their case to the Board of Finance in Brantford's case. Your Board of Selectmen, in effect, are your Board of Finance, right?
No, we have both.
You have them both.
We have
Okay.
both.
But you're going to ask for money someday as you decide how you want to prioritize your efforts. So, a program or a plan, you want to have an element of marketing, of course. Marketing is not just are you business friendly, it's what the community is like, the destinations that you have, the recreation that you have, your school system. Having the utilities at the table is important. You may be mad at the rate increases that that come up, and that they didn't clear the ice off the wires, and whatever happens to be the case. But they're an important player, and they are a customer. They're a partner that needs to be happening. Incentives is a really important part. I'm in Hamden We were heavily involved in incentives that were based on capital investment versus, as opposed to job creation and things like that. And I have a lot of strong feelings about that now. I think that incentives need to be much more targeted to what you really want to accomplish. Adopting certain state programs that allow you to offer incentives is a strategic decision that I will get into in a bit. Heritage tourism, you're an older, all Connecticut's an older community basically, but is that something that's important to you? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Workforce strategy, I definitely think workforce permeates all of the different sectors, economic sectors in a town like Woodbridge. When I first met Mika, I sent him some information about a new health sciences business that was opening, that is opening in, I forget where the building is.
Research Parkway, I was there yesterday, I met the gentleman.
Okay.
He's established some lab space, it's really, it's a good story.
Right, so you could read about it and go to the ribbon cutting or or the whatever, or you can go there with an agenda as a group or as a subcommittee to say, okay, we're working with the STEM program at Amity, I'm just making up stuff. Or we have a collaborative relationship with Yale or something. In Hamden, they created this program with Gateway to get kids into a STEM program. It's called HECA. I forget what the acronym stands for, Hamden Economic something. But basically the kids go into an intensified program in STEM and they come out of it with a 2-year degree from Gateway and their 4-year high school degree. But it's a big, it's a big endeavor for those kids. So you can grow things based on industry that's interested. You'll be surprised when you start thinking about business visitation, what's actually here, more than you know. Shovel-ready sites, again, you may or may not get into that, but basically what that means is really getting some key sites already zoned and approved for a certain amount of activity on them. I don't know, in the flats, for example, where you have that housing project that's, I guess it's online now, I drive by it all the time.
Toll Brothers on Bradley Way.
Toll Brothers, right. So if you have other sites in town to think about that you really want to show, you want to work with somebody who knows how to get a site shovel-ready. Shovel-ready just means that it's almost approved already if somebody meets the requirements that you want. That's an oversimplification. Okay, we can dig deeper into this, and again, I can come back and talk about this. Legislative authority, I always get like, what does that mean as an economic development commission? So, again, some commissions are advisory only. Probably 75% of them, 80% of them are advisory only. So if you want to offer an incentive to a business on this site that's going to be vacated because somebody else is in line, does this board have any say over it? You could say, yes, we support that. Or in the resolution that actually approves the incentive, that you are required to vote on it. And I found in Hamden, we had our EDC was actually a voting member of the incentives. It wasn't just advisory. If the commission didn't vote on it, the council didn't approve it. They wouldn't even look at it. And it sort of took a little bit of the heat off the political side of it because, your whole goal is to grow the economy in Woodbridge, oversimplifying it. So do you want to have some legislative authority? It may not work in Woodbridge. You may not be granted that legislative authority. But when we did an incentive, we had members of we had the tax collector, the tax assessor, the zoning person, the finance director. We had a cast of thousands. The mayor who never came, but because of political reasons. And I ran it. A member of the EDC, the chair was always on that, and one designated member from the chair. We had the authority to be in the food chain of approving an incentive. I don't know that would work here, but it's just something to explain that what we did. And what I found was that the tax collector and the tax assessor gave us the other side of the sort of equation. Should we give this tax incentive or this degree of a tax incentive? Because we're taking away my taxes that I like to collect. Everybody's kind of wants to control what they contribute to the town. And that was a valued opinion. And Barbara, who's since retired, she's still around, Barbara Tito, who was our tax collector, she would not be happy if we overdid it with the tax incentive. But she had friends on the legislative council and who were protecting every tax dollar. So it was a good balance of people, but it could be a heavy lift to get that going. But it's something you have the ability to do and advocate for. Okay, let's look at sort of like a spiritual approach to economic development. This slide, and again, all your slides are in your folders, all these same slides are in your folders. This is sort of like the old school, new school way of looking at economic development. Traditionally, economic development, and economic development's been around really since the 1970s, even in its more elementary form than it is now. It was always about the transaction. The business came in, you gave them an incentive, you gave them a grant. Enterprise zones came out, you know, in the 80s, and all these other state of Connecticut tax incentive programs came out. It was all about a transaction. If they did this, you would give them that. And the other side of the coin is, how do you want to make your community a better place? What is the quality of the business? What do they contribute in terms of hiring people and putting kids in your school system? And their kids are going to come out and want to stay here. I've overheard you saying that, you know, your kids are here, that you've been here since college, you're married, your wife stayed here, you came with the wife. I've overheard all that when you were talking. So it's sort of like the transformational approach to economic development. Where do you want to land? This is a rhetorical question. The truth of the matter is it's really a blend of both, because you really do have to understand the bottom line of businesses. They're not there to lose money. They're there to make money. But how do you value a business and help them want to become part of your community and you know, hire local people and so forth? It's really a blend of the two things, but I do think this slide helps you to think about, you know, when you feel like, oh, do we want to just roll over for this tax incentive, or do we want to really give it because they're going to, you know, it's more of a transformational business. Maybe it's a STEM type business like that. Versus, oh, just because they invest 50 grand into a building, we should give them incentive. It's not always the case. So you have to kind of think about it. The most clear way I can explain one way or the other from this slide is in workforce development. You bring up workforce. In the old school way of doing it, there were only programs through the government that would give somebody money for creating a full-time equivalent job, FTE, or 2 half-time jobs or whatever. You give them $1,000, $5,000 through a grant that the town would secure to help a business in manufacturing or whatever create a job. Thank you very much, Scott, for creating this job. Here's a check for $5 grand. But somebody has to monitor that job and make sure the job is still available and, you know, that person's still hired in a year. Mm-hmm. That's a transaction in workforce development. A transformational approach in workforce development is having a program that is a collaboration between that business in life sciences and your public school system or a college or university to help match the skill set of a student. Or maybe, you know, somebody's moving into your business, your town that has a construction business, and they need to hire plumbers and electricians and all those, you know, all the trades. That's a transformational thing, to have a program that matches the employers. I used to like to put businesses and parents together. Forget the town, forget the politics, and forget government. Put businesses in front of parents, what they need, and, you know, whether the kid's ready to go to college now or in 5 years from now. I always tell the story that I have two. I have a almost 28, and I have a almost 26. And one of them was a brilliant college student. She's doing great. She writes grants for a living, you know, interestingly enough. And my other one, he's working for a moving company. He's doing great. He's driving a truck. He has a team that works for him. Quiet, doesn't say much when he was a kid. Doesn't say much as an adult either. But they're totally different. He didn't want to go to college. He wanted to do other things. And as long as they take care of themselves and don't bother me, I'm good. You know, that's the sort of. And he produced my only grandchild, so that's a good thing. But the point is, yeah.
I have a follow-up question. How about providing consultative services?
I'm sorry, what was that?
How about providing consultative services to business owners? I'm thinking of someone who needs environmental remediation and navigating, you know, the government can be pretty daunting at times. Is that something else that should be considered?
Yes, and I'm going to talk about that when we get to the pillars. I'm definitely going to be talking about. I'm going to go through these slides, and when I get to the pillars, I'm going to slow down. And tell me if I start running out of time. You're good. Okay. So this is sort of like the wrap-up slide. It's, you know, it's not about the transaction or the project. It's about how you transform your town, what you want it to be. You know, available commercial area or the potential commercial area is not gonna be as great as other places because you have lots of rural areas. I mean, like, I'm talking to Paula in Bethany, she says, what can I do? I got Route 63 and a couple of other smaller areas. You have a lot more than that, but you are sort of, you have a business district, you have flats, you have some opportunities, no doubt, but there's only so much you're gonna be able to do, so you wanna work on things that are more transformational. Create destinations, and so forth. Okay, let's talk about the pillars, and this is sort of where we're gonna get into this sort of that. And my goal tonight is to leave you with something to think about and come back next month and maybe work on one or two, what I've suggested, one like, oh my God, we have to do all this stuff. I say, but listen, pick one or two of these pillars first to start, what you feel is most important to you, and we'll drill down into some of these things that you can do. So on business retention, there are some things with business retention and business attraction that are similar, but some things that are really important that are different from one thing to the other. I'm starting with business retention. You may feel that you want to start with business attraction. Business expansion is part of business retention. The businesses here that you want to stay here, but also to add on, put 1,000 square foot addition on. Do some MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing improvements, better lighting, all the things you want them to do to stay, but to grow. So the most, these are some of the key things. Keeping your mill rate steady is really important for retention, because if they're thinking of growing, they are looking at other towns. They'll tell you all 10 ways to Sunday that I love it here, I would never leave. They're looking. And if I were them, I'd be looking too, just if nothing else, compare, or sometimes they have a spouse that wants you to look at other places, I've run across that quite a few times. In terms of retention and keeping things going, I really put a high premium on communicating with the residents of the town. In my brief time knowing Mika, I know he feels the same way about making sure that the citizens know what you're doing with all of these things, basically. Make sure that they understand why you're focusing on that, besides just the tax rate. I mean, people tend to really, really focus on the tax rate, but it's really about all of these things. Incentives that reward, not punish. If you offer incentives, and I get this question all the time on this slide. What does that mean? So, very often when people offer incentives, it can be controversial sometimes, but you also don't want to make it complicated for the business. If your goal is to get somebody here, you want some deliverable from them, okay? Capital investment would be a very obvious one. You want them to build a building, improve the building they're looking at, one of those things. That's a really good thing to ask them to do, because they have to do it anyway. And then when you offer the incentive, you have to document that they did what they did. So you get the copy of their payment requisitions and cancel checks and those kinds of things. You still have to document for your taxpayers, why do we give them an incentive, and how do you know they're going to do what they're going to do? You don't give them the incentive until they finish the job and they show you receipts. That's basically it. But what happens in many towns, and I'm going to pick on my own town where I live, is people twist themselves into pretzels asking the business too much. They want to create 10 jobs. If you create 10 jobs and invest $200,000 in that building, we'll give you an incentive. Well, now you're getting in their business. Who's going to monitor that? Are you going to monitor that? No, is the answer. Employment is really it's very an elusive thing now. I mean, do they work at home? Do they work at the place? I mean, it's a really hard thing to monitor. So you don't want to go in and put what they call a clawback provision in their incentive packages. If they don't create the 10 jobs, you're going to take away that tax incentive. You want to keep it simple enough. And I find that capital investment is the one thing that they're going to do anyway, and you have to just document it. So you don't want to punish them if they created 6 jobs instead of 10 jobs, or maybe they created no jobs because the economy, we went through a mini recession, and then we had inflation, we had lots of things go wrong in the last couple of years. So you want to make sure incentives that you do are promote what you want, which is investment in the town. Redevelopment strategy, again.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just before you go on, just that the clawback that you mentioned is something that's come up a couple of times in regard to towns and looking at different incentives, because there are situations where people will move in
Yes.
and get the incentive, but move out prior to the time where they're starting to pay regular taxes, so to speak.
Yeah.
Is that something that's become less prevalent? Was it more prevalent before, or is that something that's,
Clawbacks?
yeah?
Well, in the past, it used to be more prevalent because some of the state and federal, so to offer an incentive, you just can't decide to do it. There has to be a state statute that permits Woodbridge to do it. And there's a bunch of them, and then there's enterprise zone, if you adopt an enterprise zone. And because of the enterprise zone requirements in the past, they would give grants for job creation. But then you had to monitor those jobs. So it's less of a thing now than it was then. The progressive politics will put in benefit agreements, which I might mention in some of these slides. Benefit agreements is you have to hire a certain amount of, local people on the job. And again, I'm against that, because, some of these are union jobs, and you cannot, go against the union contract just because of somebody decides they want to put a benefit agreement out there. The job would be shut down. If it's a prevailing wage job, those are usually union shop jobs. So you can't just put something in because somebody feels they read about it. San Jose, they did a benefit agreement to create jobs for 12 people that are, unemployed. That's a nice thought, but it doesn't work in reality. So it's less prevalent, to answer your question.
Thank you.
And just, you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot. You want them, what's your goal? Increase the grand list, keep taxes steady. So all these things are.
Excuse me, but in the term clawback relates to if they don't meet these criteria.
Right.
Claw back that,
Then you're in
incentive.
legal action.
Well, it's written in this prorated, right? So within usually it's a time frame, in the next 5 years, you need to maintain,
I see.
the business needs
I
to,
see.
yeah.
You have to maintain business operations,
Right.
those are basic things. In 21 years, I think we did something like 180, I counted them once, something like that, 180 incentive packages. One time we asked for our money back. It was like $800, so it wasn't a lot of money, the company paid it, by the way. But it would have been a nightmare for me with no staff to bird dog every single business to make sure they were doing every single thing. Once I got that, I knew they were still there. Plus, if they go under, you're punishing them. They may reappear, but once I wouldn't even allow the tax abatement to go forward until I saw the proof of capital investment. I had to see actual canceled checks and things like that. But that's something that is worth doing. But anyway, the point is you don't want to make it too burdensome for them and at the local level to administer. So anyway, these are all things that are important for retention. You want to keep the town vibrant. You want to have sort of a sector strategy, cluster strategy. Clusters, sectors, pillars, there's lots of terminology like this. Sectors are the most common one, but the clusters strategy was invented in the 1970s by a Harvard professor. And the cluster strategy is basically to come up with a strategy for industries to work together, similar industries to work together. So Silicon Valley is the one that people know the best, technology. And then it went to the Route 128 corridor in Boston, technology and biotech and STEM, Research Triangle, where Duke and North Carolina down there. Those are national clusters for industry. Connecticut has its own cluster strategy, defense industries down in New London for electric boat, insurance in Hartford. It's going to be tough in Hartford as office space keeps changing over when mortgages, have to be refinanced. But they don't use office space. New Haven Biotech, clearly biotech is a cluster. So cluster is a strategy that has been adapted from a national model to a state model to a regional model. But I always tell towns, you should have some sort of a cluster strategy for your town specific. And that requires you have, as a board, understanding who are the players. In Woodbridge, Connecticut, you're going to probably have 1 or 2 or 3 clusters. I had 9 in Hamden, because Hamden's a bigger town, and has different dimensions. But you're going to have healthcare. You've got some healthcare facilities. You're going to have manufacturing. You probably have more manufacturing than you even know about. And that sort of relates to life sciences and STEM, which you're learning about as you go along. So those are probably your clusters. So you want to have speakers maybe at this meeting every month or every so often, every quarter, on one of these clusters to talk about what they're doing. So you learn what they're doing. And how can you help them? Very often it's the workforce. But it might be, with the manufacturing, they're also very concerned about utility costs. That's one of the things that manufacturers, because of the power needs. When Bitcoin was getting huge before it crashed, and all these mining businesses, they use a tremendous amount of power because the computers needed for that. So up in Maine right now, where I'm doing a little consulting work, they have a lot of old paper mills on rivers. They use the water, the power from the water. That's how that is growing like crazy up in Maine. But the point is, to understand your local clusters is a good strategy for, I'm pointing to you because you're now the chair, congratulations. You don't have to change the silverware, Scott and Scott.
Yeah, that's right.
But anyway, the point is that to understand your clusters, and again, I will come back and work with you on this and provide some technical information.
Great.
I'm not just gonna leave you, like, figure that out and let me know how you're doing. No, I will work with you on the things that you wanna focus on, but you have to decide what you wanna focus on. So these are all the things that are important for retention. I'm gonna move along, and again, you're gonna see this, but the last one is what you asked about, educate businesses, training, business assistance services. Now, there are many ways to do this. When you talk about business creation, which we're gonna get to, I'll mention business incubators. Incubators are a place, but incubation is a process. And so whether you have co-work space or some sort of incubator, or you promote that, you bring in some younger people, no offense, but you know, well, there's some younger, sort of younger, whatever, I'm one of you guys, you know? But you have to get them to be, they may be brilliant in what they do, but they may not have the X's and O's, you know, the blocking and tackling, to use a sports metaphor here. But there are other ways for basic business assistance, and SCORE is one. You all know what SCORE is. SCORE is a great organization, a great program, if you can get people to go to their seminars, or if you can get them to come here. So there are other options. There's the Small Business Development Center on the Yukon that will travel, come to Woodbridge and do a program similar to SCORE. And they're all good organizations. There's the Women's Business Group out of Hartford that's fantastic, by the way, Fran Pastore. Really, really good. And then the colleges and universities do a lot now too. Through Southern in particular, I'm thinking of. So there are many ways to do it, and if that's a focus point on the retention, I would strongly encourage you to find out what they are, have them come as a speaker, give you some ideas, and then promote the heck out of it to your small businesses. Maybe your clusters, you get together, you get clusters. The last thing I'll say about clusters is, I'll talk about business visitation. Every mayor I've ever met wants to, Mika does business, you know, every Friday go visit a business. And that is important, especially if there's a new one in town, you wanna see what they do. But you wanna be a little strategic about it. You wanna just say, gee, Scott, what do you do here, you know? You should kinda know walking in what Scott does at his business. Don't waste Scott's time, don't waste your time. Go there for a reason. If Scott has a small manufacturing business, you want to go there and let him show you what he does, because most manufacturers are very, very proud and excited about what they do, because they do amazing things. And you have manufacturing in Woodbridge, I know for a fact, because I've talked to a few. Like actually, when I was at Hannah Trade, to recruit a few, as a matter of fact, with our incentive program. Sorry, I didn't know you. But when you go to visit Scott as a manufacturer, you want to say, find out what Scott needs. It's always going to be workforce. I don't have somebody to run a CNC machine, you know, whatever it is. The other thing that you're going to learn is who Scott's supplier is, his supply chain, what that's about. Okay, where do you get your cleaning supply, whatever it happens to be. And then you're going to try to match other businesses with Scott, almost like a mini little bit of a chamber of commerce thing, you know, to do. But I found that talking about supply chain, I learned a ton from, you know. So we had a cheese manufacturing business, Leuzzi, you probably buy it right
Sure.
in the store. Well, they make it and hand it. And I did an article, I'll send it to you if you want, called The Supply Chain of Cheese. Because I interviewed them, the brothers and the uncles, everybody there is related. And they told me all about the immense web of businesses they do, subcontract, the trucks that deliver the cheese and who services those trucks. It's amazing when you really, and healthcare places like you have on Andy Road. You have 2 or 3 things going on in Woodbridge. They have a tremendous supply chain effect on other businesses in the region and in town. So you want to learn about that when you visit somebody, don't just go and say, hey, how you doing? Great to meet you. Welcome to Woodbridge. That's fine, but you also want to learn something. That's my only point. Okay. Business attraction. I mean, some of the things are really important, and I want to emphasize this because it gets to the issue of community development as well as economic development. What attracts a business to a town? People talk about site selectors, national site selectors that's working with a company from Michigan who wants to move back east, probably because the spouse wants to move back east. Very often it's to do with somebody in the house that wants to move back to their family. But where they land has a lot to do with some of these factors. So, where can my employees live? Where can they afford to live? These are important things on business attraction. If you have people my son's age who did take CNC machining at Goodwin College and he stuck with it, he's still going to be a few years before he has the income to buy a house. So where can they afford to live in the meantime? This is an important part of business attraction. Site selectors, not talking about brokers, like, Levy, Miller, Moretz, or whatever. Those are also important customers, of course, to you. But the site selectors that have bigger companies, their job is to eliminate sites, not to pick sites. You have to remember that. They're going to say, what are the housing prices in this region of Connecticut? We want to be in southern Connecticut. What are the housing prices in southern Connecticut? Because that's important, because workforce, remember, is the number one thing. And what's the most important thing to workforce? Where they live. So housing costs are important for business attraction. Having demographics in the town hall available at all times. Your reputation for permitting and approving things. Very important, because time is money for a business thinking about moving. Having information about sites available. You can go on SiteFinder through Advanced CT or some of the LoopNet and some of these, and you can just direct people. But having that available somehow through your website, even if it's a link, that's important. Having a decent website for economic development, so if this commission ends up having a mission and some goals, sort of like management by objectives, the old way of looking at organizing yourself, having that on your website tells a business looking at Woodbridge that they really care about business attraction, versus what the commission, we hope to bring nice businesses to Woodbridge. It's got to say more than that on your website. Location of institutions and engaging those institutions, like you're pretty blessed in this region to have a lot of interesting places around. Southern's really making a play with their business school. If you've been to the campus lately, it's unbelievable how many buildings they've built and how many relevant programs. UNH is a greatly underestimated college in the region. They're more independent, and they have some great international programs. And of course, we can't forget Yale. Scott, don't worry, I didn't forget Yale. So anyway, these are all things that are important for attraction reasons. How am I doing on time, Mika? Okay, good.
I say that not knowing how much time you have.
It's 5 of 7, so I'm good, I think.
Thank you.
Okay, so business creation is the one, sort of the new one I've added recently to this slide show. And entrepreneurship training is sort of what you were asking about. How do we, provide technical assistance? That's important to have that on your website and let people know that you are engaged. So that means the commission has to research having, whether it's having the Small Business Development Center come and talk to you, which I think would be a valuable thing to do. And I can make all these connections for you, so you don't have to work that hard on it.
Yeah.
SCORE, and all of the other places. Sometimes, like the New Haven Chamber offers that, and I believe all the towns in the region are automatically members of the Greater New Haven Chamber. So, if you want to at least talk to them, Garrett Sheehan is the CEO, president of the New Haven Chamber. He will come to your meeting if I say, that would be a good idea. I know all these people. Business incubators, you kind of know what that is. You're creating a common place for small businesses to locate so they can share some of the resources, the conference room, bathrooms, kitchen, so they don't have to have an individual office. But it's also a program where you might bring in entrepreneurship training. So I have, in my career, built several incubators in Connecticut, one in Hamden that now we sold during COVID because it was just hard to deal with during COVID, and it's now doing fantastic. Incubators do not have to be downtown New Haven next to 47 restaurants. They have to be a place where small businesses can get the right services to create. Accelerators. Anybody know what an accelerator is?
No.
Okay. So, your incubators are your startups. Maybe they have, maybe they were in their, back bedroom during COVID, but they want to be in an office now. An accelerator is sort of the next level, stage 2, stage 3 companies. An accelerator program is where you're bringing in more high-level trainers to work directly with the businesses in your incubator. So you find accelerator programs in incubators. It's not a separate building necessarily. But in accelerator, now you're getting angel investors involved. They take a piece of the company maybe. They offer, well, they're looking for investment opportunities. They may not take a piece of everybody in there, but they're going to look for, cherry pick something that's interesting to them. And they might, take 10% of the company to work more heavily with the company. So an accelerator program is sort of next level of incubator, I guess is the best way to say it. But that's where they actually take a position like an angel investor. People know that term, angel investing, and that's where they come in. Co-work space is kind of part of incubators. I'm not a big believer in co-work space as a model on its own, because collecting $50 from Mika and $100 from you and $200 from you is not about business model that you might have months where you do well and you can pay the bills, but you might if he goes away and doesn't pay the $50, you don't have the money. So having co-work space in an incubator does work. So most incubators will have individual rooms with a door that shuts. I'm sort of in one now where I'm in the handed chamber. I have a door that shuts. I share the conference room, bathroom, kitchen. But the co-work spaces where people, they all share the same table. Again, it's a good model, good opportunity for a startup, especially during COVID. People were getting the willies, working at home all the time, and the cat and the dog were scratching the door, and they wanted to get out somewhere, and having a place to go is important. So co-work works, but on its own, I wouldn't make that like a priority because they succeed, they fail. It's not a sustainable model. Makerspace, again, started off as being, woodwork and metal shop, and we all used to make fun of it a little bit because what's the business model there? How do people make money playing with 3D printers? And it's about innovation. But if you feel like it, go Google Industry 4.0. This gets into tech transfer, artificial intelligence, all of that kind of experimentation with technology is part of makerspace now. So now, in certain areas of Connecticut, Hartford being a really good example, they have a tremendous makerspace program because they really adapted this Industry 4.0. It's sort of just next level. Sort of like the analogy of incubators and accelerators. It's just the next level of deepness of how they make something. They're making technology, making intelligence. And if any of you use ChatGPT or any of these, some of them may not be totally good, but I've used it a little bit. It's unbelievable to get into some of this artificial intelligence stuff. Okay, I'm actually moving along through.
Dale, can I ask one quick question?
Yeah.
So, going back one slide and comparing it to business creation, business attraction and business creation. So I'm getting a sense that you sort of put that pillar up of business creation as something a little bit more new wave, whether it's co-working space, accelerators, incubators,
Yeah.
Y Combinator out in California, YEI,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, cooperative research in New Haven. But what about something in between that? Not just the business attraction of marketing, making sure you have a friendly face when the business person comes into town, that
Right.
you pick them right up, you don't drop them. Those kinds of things to attract business. But what about actually creating standardized businesses just by sort of, you're creating business, but it's not just the marketing aspect of attracting it, but you're taking steps to actually, say, they're going to want to put more restaurants, or they're going to want to put more dry cleaners, or they're going to want to put more grocery stores. That kind of a sort of creation of business. Is that a pillar within economic development, or is that a
So you're
community
thinking
development?
like infrastructure?
Right, so you're saying almost like you created a destination or a place that will attract other things.
My wife's going down to Nashville.
Yeah.
She's got her cowboy boots on
Right.
right now, and she's got a cowboy hat when she's on the plane.
Yeah,
And
I
you
got
know
it, I
she'll
got
be
it.
having
Yeah, these
a bourbon tonight.
These bullets are not all inclusive. So under business attraction,
Yep.
create destinations. I would just add that as something that
Yep.
you think about in business. Create a destination, create a catalytic project that would attract other things around it. That housing project that they're doing, you know, on the corner there, it should attract more restaurants, because
Right.
more people with money, obviously, are gonna be living there. You have some restaurants now, but I bet you, you know, in a year from now, you're gonna see something related to that, maybe more healthcare places too, by the way.
Right.
By the way, I'm almost 68 and I have like 10 doctors and I'm healthy, you know, so some development, but creating destinations, it could be arts and culture, whatever it happens to be, at the community level, would go under business attraction, you could just add that. Certainly add that. All right, I'm gonna do 2 more slides and then I'll be out of the way. Structural goals. This is an important part, Scott, that's the chair and co-chair, and everybody, for at least taking a look at some of these items, and this is also in thinking about how you support Mika and the Board of Selectmen and how they spend their money on the structural aspects of the town. And there's more things on this slide that I didn't put in, that I could add. So what's not on this slide, for example, is the internet capacity of the town. Okay, so during COVID, what happened? Everybody couldn't go in, so they had, you know, so I asked Paula, because I recently saw Paula, I had a chance to talk to her a bit. I said, what's the situation with fiber? And that's a structural issue that you want to address as a board. Maybe, you know, I know that some internet companies companies that lay fiber, Frontier being one of them, is making all these claims that they're going to do all this stuff. Well, they're not going to do all that stuff. It's just that they can't be everywhere. GoNet Speed is only in certain areas. But having something that is some sort of strategy or taking a position on structural issues is important, because if the town wants to invest money in some of this. In East Hartford, they developed their own fiber. They invested money, and then they're going to become like a utility. But they're not going on the poles. They're doing trenching. Big issue because of easements and a billion different things that can go wrong. Poles, by the way, don't mess with poles. It's so complicated. You know, we got different owners of different heights of the pole. It's like crazy land. But these structural issues are really important. Housing opportunities and costs is, to me, is a foundational thing. You know, structure, foundation. I know I'm using some metaphors here, but it's really important to make sure that there is some housing strategy. That's a structural problem for economic development because of the workforce issue. Having a redevelopment strategy, you know, you may or may not have it. MDP are sort of industrial areas. You can actually get a district formed. You get some state incentives for doing that. Again, it may or may not be a Woodbridge thing. Brownfields I bring up in different towns, and a lot of folks when they're on the commissions or elected officials say, well, we don't have any brownfields. I only know of one. You have them. You just, you know, they're that old site that used to have, you know, bunch of propane tanks. It's a construction company. It's, any number of things are brownfields. The question is, how many do you have? You don't know how many you have. So, for example, one thing you could do to find out, could they present opportunities either for developers or sometimes they're like in between two properties, you need an easement, and there's a brownfield there. UConn has a free program to invite them to do basically inventory of all the brownfields in Woodbridge. You have to apply to the program and get in the queue. It's free. I did this, and several of the towns I've been working with have done it, and we're getting this free service. Take advantage of it. By the way, my services are free. I just know this is mine. Yeah.
Brownfields are privately owned properties as well?
Most of the time. So my guess is the town doesn't own any brownfield, but I'll
We
give you
do.
an example.
We do, actually.
We do.
Woodbridge Country Club.
Well, right. Well, I don't want to steal that thunder, so that's one. It's a Transfer Act site, which is sort of a higher level in terms of state law. In New Milford, Connecticut, if you know where that is, it's near Danbury. It's a town of about 30,000 people. They're moving their public works garage to a new site. The site just aged out, but the site, the current site, is very close to downtown, where a lot of investors would want to go, workforce housing and luxury housing. So they hired me to write a grant, this is sort of next level after the bar, to do assessments of their public works property so they can then apply for some remediation money, so then they can position it for a private investment. That's public. You have the golf course. It's your equivalent of what they're doing in New Milford. In New Milford, they want to use some of it for recreation, some of it for private investment. And you're gonna have probably a combo as well. It's a big enough piece. So but very often they're privately owned. Very often the owners don't want to be acknowledged because then they feel like they're gonna have liability.
Right.
If you want to know where it is in case it strategically comes up, anything near Amity Road, there's probably going to be some aspect of brownfield somewhere around there, and that's the area where you're going to go. So it may not be an issue, but I would advise Mika's office to at least contact UConn so you can get in the queue. It might not be for a year, but at least to find out. Again, it's a free service. They do a really, really good job. I've used them and other people use them. Okay, so. These are the kinds of things that, these are foundational things, structural goals, metaphorical, structural, foundational, but grant writing strategy. So, to me, that's a foundational economic thing that could help the Economic Development Commission, maybe apply for a grant to extend a sewer line or, whatever it happens to be, improve a manhole in the sewer where it's sewered so industry can grow. I mean, I've run across that many times.
Dale, could I interrupt and just ask one question when you're getting to adequate staff resources? We were a smaller town and I think a lot of probably the residents are busy going off from the town to work and sort of coming back to rest their heads and go back to work, and it's
Right.
sort of that sort of thing back to the engines in New
Inner
Haven.
suburb.
And go to the engines in New Haven. What about staff resources? Because we probably have a lot of executives and people with a lot of experience that are going out of the town and coming back to sleep. Dollar executives as sort of, would that be a role for us to sort of look for how we can attract volunteers to provide staff support for our
100%.
town? Like, for instance, we have some very people live in this town that work in New Haven that have lots of connections with what's going on, but when they come back to town, they're just exhausted and they go to sleep probably,
Yeah, I want to.
But what I'm saying is, should we be thinking about how do we network our executives to see if we can recruit some of them to be the dollar staff members, that are either writing grants or, we got tons of people in this town that we
Well,
can tap.
whatever their talent is,
Yeah,
you want to cultivate that talent. But to cultivate that talent, you need to have a plan and a strategy
Yep.
that would attract it. They probably are like, if you had a robust program, and I'm projecting a year from now, right now you're going to work on one pillar or another pillar, but ultimately you want to have a plan that would attract this talent. And if you were dealing with, for example, healthcare, there's a lot of people who touch the healthcare industry. They could be on the financial side of it, bonding side, lawyers that know. I'm on the board of Whitney Center in Hamden, and they are the largest taxpayer in Hamden, and they are what they call a CCRC. Basically, you go in with money, you make a gigantic down payment, and you can stay all the way till you need nursing care. And it's a very successful model. And all of their board volunteers are people that have experience in all kinds of industries, sort of what you're saying, and they volunteer their time. A lot of it is raising money for grants. Will you get somebody to write a grant? Maybe not. But they do know people that do, or they do have other associates.
or could try to find you somebody
They
that will
want to
do it
bring
for
in
you.
an intern, one of their interns, who they might work with. So the answer is yes, but you have to have something to attract them, and that's the answer. But in terms of the town's capacity, my services are free, and there's a companion program through the Council of Governments to provide grant services. That will probably go on until next fiscal year. Also, Mika, we're all talking to Carl now about, because he's gonna still have money left for this stuff. So right now, you're getting consultation services and some writing, but there's talk of them expanding that to writing grants for you through this Burdowski Planning Partners that I do a little bit of work with, Juliet, who you've met, Mika. But you want to have a strategy for it. You may not be able to hire a grants person. You're not going to be able to do that. Even bigger cities don't do that, they usually farm it out. But I do think you have to have a strategy, because that raises revenue and there may be economic development. Maybe there's a brownfield grant, like Mika's gonna talk about the bar grant in a few minutes, where we were part of working with Mika's office to prepare. But the next, if it gets funded, and I'm not gonna take his thunder on it, I'll explain it to you. The next phase is gonna be, somebody has to write a brownfield grant, so that's a more of a boutique skill. I've written probably about 20 of them, but you need somebody with a certain expertise. Maybe they were an engineer, maybe they just have an interest in it. Who was the engineer in this group? You were the engineer, aerospace. We adapt that to civil engineering, sewer?
Gets us there.
I mean, we gotta figure
All in
out a
favor?
mold.
Seconded.
Well, when we're done tonight, I am gonna call the two of you to say, okay, let's talk about each one of them, what their back, let's get the resume, because you had to submit a resume probably, right, to get on this board. So I really do look at the talent pool in the whole town, but obviously on this commission. So with that, the last thing I will say, and then I will, stop here and just wrap up, say a couple more things. At the end of the day, whether you do attraction, retention, business growth, you have to be consistent in the land use area. And all of those things make total sense, but it's not always the case in towns. I'm not saying it's the case in Woodbridge, because I haven't really looked at how it works, but you always want to kind of keep your eye on what's going on and make sure all those things are consistent. When people come from New York and look at Connecticut to the land use commissions, they go, only 90 days to get a site plan approved? That's nothing, because they have county government in New York. They gotta go through the county, they gotta go through all kinds of stuff. Other people from, let's say, I don't know, Bloomfield comes to Woodbridge and they'll go, 90 days, why so long? It's all relative, but you have to be consistent and you have to be clear on what the requirements are, and you have to be friendly. I've seen many unfriendly towns in the area of land use and permitting, and especially when you get to conservation and inland wetlands and things like that. But there has to be, that's why I always mention that they're all part of your team, because you want to make sure this is the case at the end of the day. So just to kind of finish up, because I know there's other things on your agenda, Scott and Scott, the Scotts, you'd probably be good to kind of talk amongst yourselves a little bit, but I'm available to come every month.
Great.
Until my time is up, or every other month, or whatever's appropriate. But you tell me what you want to start working on, and then I'll start helping you with speakers, bringing them in to just keep the education process. And it's going to click. Like, let's focus on retention. Let's focus on attraction. Whatever it happens to be. And then, because I know pretty much everybody that touches all these areas, and then it will give you some examples. I'll just leave you with one final thought. In healthcare, the Mary Wade Home in New Haven. They're pretty innovative in the way they've thought about workforce development. The Mary Wade Home bought 3 two-family houses and renovated them with a HUD grant for their workers that could walk to work and have a safe and clean place to live. And that's the kind of good economic and community development to think about in terms of your clusters. Nobody's going to buy a tract of land and build 50 units. No business is going to do that. But just that kind of transformation thinking is really important to think about.
Thank you.
To that end, Dale, just go on.
Could I ask one quick question? Just, do you see the EDC, like Mika mentioned that we're looking at a lot SIP grant, a large lot SIP grant to help improve our business district area. And I know, like, for instance, Scrog right now is looking for a Woodbridge representative, Mika, I think, right? Scrog's looking for a transportation, Woodbridge, somebody to sit in the Scrog representing Woodbridge on the transportation committee.
There's a ton of money coming out for transportation.
Right, and so we're going for a lot SIP grant, but we haven't appointed our Scrog representative for transportation. Should that come out of the town, or does that come out of the? Is it an Economic Development Commission a logical commission to feed some of those Scrog positions because we're looking for economic development, or is it something else that you see fill those Scrog positions to network for that grant opportunity from LOTSIP, because you're in the transportation committee?
In a perfect world, it's you have a blend of people that would sit on these, but it's really first come first served.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a strategy and you have an articulated vision of what you want this commission to be, it's very logical that this commission in a town that's small, like Woodbridge, would have a representative that would help me by sitting on that. Now, why? I'm asking the question, you don't have to have an answer. Why? Is it because industries need, better bus service, better access to transportation? Or is it because you wanna have, what do they call those, where they have the bike paths, no, complete streets, and walkability and things like that. It just sort of depends on what the goals are, but you have to kind of decide what are your infrastructure and your transportation goals as a commission. I know in Hamden, all the bus service is linear, north to south, north to south. What about east to west? It was like a jigsaw puzzle, seeing how the circuitous route that all these buses are like, just send it down Putnam Avenue for Christ's sake, over between Whitney and Dixwell. It would solve a lot of problems. So if you have a vision, it makes a lot of sense, but usually it's first come, first served. Whoever's the squeaky wheel.
I'm sorry, I don't follow that in terms of, what do you mean in terms of the people sitting on the?
Yeah, so if you need a representative you can't be on everything.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for either sort of a mission, going to those meetings, obviously you're gonna be looking at any kind of, improve your roads, and so you're repaving, you're doing lots of things. But if you're looking for somebody to actually sit on, to represent the town, it could be from this commission, depending on what the goals of the commission are. That's all we're saying.
And I was just referring to, because if we're looking for lots, that's kind of a transportational aspect in
Yeah,
a
you-
big
And it's
part
pretty
of our
critical.
2030 plan and
Right, and I didn't mention that, because, I've talked to Mika about this, and, I'm aware of the 2030 committee, I've read the report, I know some of the people on it just by osmosis, but I wanna learn what this commission wants to do before I stick my nose into what they're doing.
Agree. It will be one of the, I think when you talked about who's the customer,
Yes.
right? Give you my own opinion, right? Like, I think we need to focus on who's the end customer for what 2030 has created, right? Like, there's a infrastructure, but have we really thought about who is actually going to populate it?
Right.
Right? It didn't start there. My own opinion.
Yeah, this is like, these slides are to provoke you to.
Right, no, it did, yeah. One question I did have, you talk about, recruitment versus attraction, right? Differentiate those two pillars for us.
Yeah, they're pretty similar. Recruitment is sort of, attraction is the philosophy, recruitment is the action, is the best way I can say it. So if your approach is attraction, you wanna have certain things in place, like having an approach to housing, to make sure that you provide housing choices to workers. The recruitment is what you do to bring them here. It's sort of more the, what it is, and then the recruitment is like, who in the town or who on this commission is gonna network in circles to try to meet people. So if there's the statewide manufacturers association, there used to be a New Haven Manufacturers Association, but they've all blended together now. Somebody should attend their meetings. That's recruitment, is to really go and be an active part of something, a trade organization or something like that. But they're essentially part of the same thing.
So I see it maybe as kind of inbound versus outbound,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, the attraction is sort of, what, are you ready to attract a company to, or business to Woodbridge? You feel you're ready based on some of the things that you, and then the recruitment is what you do.
Right. Okay. Excellent. Yeah, that's
My
great.
line of
Thank you.
questioning actually is, we've got this new group of resources, and how do we meld this into action? And, what's happened in the past, I think, is we start off, and as you learn, you grow, you're more excited, you're more energized in terms of doing things, because you're learning new things, but how do we get this?
How do you hone it into something?
Correct, and for example, is our next step to identify specifically what we want to achieve based on the pillars that you outlined? Or, for example, you just mentioned the transportation, having somebody on there, and one of the things that I've been grappling with is, trying to get the Department of Transportation, or trying to feel like they're at all listening to the fact that we have a real problem down at the interchange at 59. And they've been talking for 10 years about the fact that they're gonna do something, and it might be another 15 years before they do. So how do we put the necessary energy into making something occur, or identifying that that's a non-starter, and we should be putting our time and our energy somewhere else? But things like that are very important, so I think it is important for us to have somebody who's sitting on a transportation
Yes.
group, in a transportation group, making sure that our interests are.
You have to recognize that it is gonna take forever, you know, because it becomes how much funding the state is putting in, if they're getting money from because when ARPA funds dry up, in 26, when they hit, all those funds have to be spent. That were allocated to a labyrinth of agencies, and, you know, there's gonna be some pain.
But that's exactly my point.
Yeah.
So while there's money there and there's opportunity there, what do we need to do in order to get the attention here?
Right.
Is along the lines of what I'm saying. Or is it, you know, along the lines of what Scott was talking about, attraction and or recruitment, should our focus be, okay, developing, like you said, no, if I was gonna answer your question, are you ready for attraction? I would say the answer is no, because we don't have a specific plan in place.
Right.
We don't have, you know, if you ask this group, or you ask anybody who's been involved in it, exactly how are we gonna attract businesses, I don't know that you're gonna get a definitive answer. I'd like to get to a spot where we can, where this entire group understands this is what we need to do. And-
Well, just overall, what I would say in any of these areas, whether it's attraction or retention, you need to, as a commission, learn more. Okay, today was just like an overview.
Right.
The next thing is to start to really learn about what your industries want. They want workforce, they want lots of things, power, internet capacity. What do you do first, is sort of the question here, you know, what do you do first? I'd like to come back and ask you, you know, I've been doing all the talking, you know, a few questions sprinkled in, but I wanna hear from you what you think is important, maybe the next meeting or something like that. But I also think you should have, one of the first things you should do is have a strategy to talk to businesses about their needs. So if you talk to life sciences, manufacturing, healthcare, what their needs are, that's gonna relate to other people coming in, and then you can, you know, you need to learn more yourself about what's important to these kinds of businesses. But certainly, having a good, I don't know enough about the transportation, I know the intersection, that is a crazy land, getting off, you know, and whether, you know, pick a circuitous way to get off of it, turn around and go back. Lights, just the lights. What's your relationship with District 3, for example?
I don't know if this,
District 3 is the region for DOT, for you.
from my perspective, personally, there is none. There is none,
Okay.
correct.
So that's one.
I've reached out to a couple of the DOT
Establishing-
people through SCROG,
Right.
specifically to talk to them, and I've heard that, yes, there is a plan for that, for something to do. And now also, there's you know, and I don't mean to take a lot of time on this particular topic, but I think it is an important one. There is a lot of mind share and attention being paid to the tunnel. And what's happening to DOT is that, or at least in my conversation with them, I say exit 59, and they say, oh, the tunnel. Oh yeah, we're doing blah, 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 blah with the tunnel. And it's like, no, anything you do with the tunnel really isn't what I'm talking about.
No.
Frankly, if you start doing a tunnel and it creates traffic, it might help us, because people will get off and hopefully go to the
That's gonna
restaurant.
make it worse.
You know, but, you know, for you know, in terms of, but it's really inhibiting our ability to grow. You see Grimaldi's doesn't have any, you know,
Right.
we have an empty restaurant there for years. We have just down the street around the corner, we have an empty restaurant for years. You know, we have a lot of empty spaces there, and it has everything to do, in my opinion, with attraction. You know, being business feeling like if I'm here, people will come. And it's only because we're very fortunate to have a Starbucks in Katz's, which are very well-known, renowned places that people will make a point to go to, that there's a lot of traffic there. You know, in terms of that particular business
By the
section.
way, I'm distantly related to the Katz's.
So, that's a good
They should
job.
open at 8 though, not 10.
And, you know, Dale, that's a good point, and I don't know that this is a fact. I do hope to get down there and actually talk to him about this.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's one of the reasons they open up at 10, because at 8 o'clock in the morning, the place is a nightmare.
Could be.
You know what I
Could
mean?
very
So
well be.
that's, you know, that kind of speaks to the point.
There's no reason
They
for
tried
them not to
breakfast,
be
they
open
tried
at 8 in the
breakfast
morning.
tonight.
You know, right, you know,
Breakfast, you know.
so,
Anyway, so.
but that illustrates exactly
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
but but you still, first of all, you need to learn stuff. Maybe I'll make sort of a quick list of to-do things, maybe to think of, if you think that's helpful.
Yeah.
And then, one of them would be to really sit down with your delegation. You're just starting to do that, because
Right.
you got elected, you got inaugurated, you're getting everything set, you're working on your budget, hey! There's a lot of things going on, but talking to your delegation, which has a lot to do with money, I'd like to learn more about these issues, so I can introduce you. Scrog's gonna help you, but definitely, talking to DOT, because they make all the decisions on the timing of approval of things.
I agree.
So then, Scrog is gonna be great about giving you money, about telling you where the money is, about providing contact. You definitely wanna get to know the blocking and tackling of how the decisions are made. So for example, I assume, is 69 and 63 state road?
Yes, both.
So that's DOT land.
Correct.
They make all the decisions.
Correct.
You need a curb cut,
And
you
along
talk
with
to
that,
them, 8 months added onto your whatever project.
or if you need a traffic light,
So, 150,000 easily. That's
so,
another thing, the cost of those things. So in Hamden, we have Whitney Avenue, Maxwell Avenue, State Street, all state roads, every single one. So every curb cut, every driveway, every single thing, and if somebody doesn't realize that, massive delay. So I think getting to know
Good point.
District 3 is like a really important thing for somebody in the town to have an everyday connection to. And I knew, they're still a pain in the neck, but having them, knowing them, might speed some things up. At least you'll get a real answer on where things are in the queue. That's
Mhm.
another thing, they're very good at,
And that's what
not
I mean.
telling you anything, saying
and
words. that
and
don't
that's
make
helpful
sense.
only because, as I say, you stop putting time to it. If you know, for example, it's not gonna happen for another 10 years.
Yeah, right, you wanna
You
put
know,
your effort where they are.
somewhere
And
else.
then, what is the public transportation? No, Connecticut Transit has some bus service here?
There's a Greater New Haven Transit District that goes to a portion of our business district down there, yes. It doesn't really come up
Basically, Amity
into.
Road, and that's pretty much it.
Amity
Am-
Road's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much it, yeah, actually, that is pretty much it. And
JCC.
and I'm sorry, they also do,
Do
JCC.
you think there's a need to do more than that, or that you think that's?
well, if we start talking about doing something at the country club, yes. Because then it's, up in that area, you start talking about the possibility
It's
of
a good
doing something.
segue to where you're about to go.
It is.
Yeah.
But again, I
But
appreciate,
everything relates to everything. There's no reason to engage, and the more you engage these state and regional organizations, because you're doing something, let's say with the country club, the more they're gonna pay attention to you. Otherwise, they'll forget about you.
Right.
You gotta be in contact with them all the time.
understood. So again, I
One of the
just-
same things they go to.
I'd like us to prioritize understand first understand, okay, what are the big important projects in town from your perspective? For the most part, folks should know, what I've been considering the critical items in terms of what I campaigned on, in terms of what I communicate to people continually as far as taxes, beacher, the country club, and sustainability and some others. But if we can, I'd like to make sure that we're not too broad. And we're able to actually not only identify what we need to do, but start tracking and measuring that we're getting there. So, it's just, and I think that actually works best. I know that's how I operate best. So that's what I'm hoping we can get to.
So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give, joint the issue to the chair and to you.
Perfect.
Sort of like the low-hanging fruit, where I think would be a good starting point.
Mhm.
And you may have other things they're gonna come up, like local
Mhm.
things. But visiting businesses and talking to them really would be one of the early things I would do, just to get used to it, and also to get a sense of what they need, which is gonna relate. And then certainly some of this stuff.
And I don't want to be, the Dr. Doom here, but I know in the past, the EDC has done a bit of business outreach down in that area. We've had events down at Crest, Lincoln, we've had different things where we've gone and they were all attended. And the people aren't shy about giving us information, but what then? So
Right.
that's.
Right.
Yeah.
You're gonna hear, it depends what the industry is,
Mhm.
Again, manufacturers are gonna talk to you about workforce and energy. That's what
An
they're gonna
inventory is a good thing to do, just so we understand what different businesses we have, because we do have a bit of manufacturing and research, a lot more than I even, you know, than I realize, so.
Yeah, having an inventory, getting an intern to help you with that, I
Yeah.
mean, that's another thing, you know, you have colleges and universities, and they're always looking Southern. You know, I've had Quinnipiac interns, I've had them from everywhere, Yale, just about every school, UNH. I have mostly Quinnipiac, and Southern students were my best interns. Because
Okay.
they were willing to do the inventory. It wasn't like, I had to call the Quinnipiac students fellows, I wasn't allowed to say that. Come on.
My son was a fellow.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, so
I'm sure he was fabulous.
it went right down on his resume. He was a fellow.
Yeah,
he
that's
was a
fine.
fellow at
Hey,
Hampton.
listen, they need something on their resume.
It sounds-
Someday
fellow
off
sounds
the
better
record,
than-
I'll tell you about the one that
You probably saw him, Dale.
I had from Quinnipiac, and I said, I'm sure this is for you. His grandfather was a famous person. I won't say who it was, but basically, he was dissatisfied, really dissatisfied with, I was having him do intern stuff, go figure out this. I wasn't having him get me coffee or anything like that. Okay, go get a list of this, figure out that, add the, make an Excel spreadsheet. And he was gloomy, and I said, what's the problem? You seem unhappy. And he said, well, I ought, this is when President Obama was in office. And he goes, he said, well, I thought I'd be working more with the mayor, he says to me, in his big boy voice. I said, well, you're working for me, the mayor's not available, but let me call President Obama, because I think he may have something. And soon after that, he disappeared.
So, well, thank you. And then, as Dale said, the next thing on the, I'm sorry, Scott.
Yes.
You're-
Next on the
Had it.
agenda is the brownfield area-wide revitalization.
And I just wanted to make sure this group was aware of what that is and what we're doing with that. It is a grant, it's specific to the property, the Country Club of Woodbridge property. And it's in the amount of, if we get the grant, we get about we requested $132,000. We need to match it, so there's another $15,000, so it's about $147,000 is what it's worth. As you may know, also, we are in the process of evaluating RFPs, those RFP responses that we received when we put out an RFP for consulting services at the Country Club. This kind of folds into that very, very nicely, because the grant, if you look at what you need, what the grant provides for, it's wholly consistent with what we're looking for in terms of what we're doing at the Country Club. We do need to do some remediation at the Country Club, so that's a big part of it as well. This is only for the consulting portion of understanding exactly what you need or what you're gonna do. It doesn't really touch anything about actually doing it. But certainly, as I say, when we look at some of the proposals for Country Club, as you might expect for a project as significant as this, they're gonna be expensive. So that's, in order for us to really be able to afford to do what we wanna do, this is gonna be a very important part of that.
So it can be applied to the consulting
Yes.
as well as remediation?
No, consulting for the remediation consulting process,
Gotcha.
not for the
So-
remediation itself.
So the 147 would go towards consulting?
Correct, correct, which is, and it would be very important for that particular purpose, so. I don't know, Dale, if you wanna, if there's anything more you
Well,
want.
yeah, the
Dale
only-
was instrumental. Scott, thank you very much for your help on this as well. We just submitted it today,
Yeah,
so it had to be submitted by tomorrow.
right, and they will make the decision probably, they say May, June, probably before the end of the fiscal year, I'm sure, but probably early June, I'm gonna predict second week of June. But the only other thing I would add to what Mika said is that the product that you're gonna get out of that is gonna be valuable information, so you know if there's a boogeyman there, you know, where it is, if there's an issue, it's gonna be also there's gonna be a cost-benefit analysis of several options, so the town can make good decisions, basically.
More than
You know,
anything,
from good information.
we had a meeting last night, the board had a meeting, Board of Selectmen had a meeting last night to figure out which ones we wanted to interview and take the next step with. And as Dale just mentioned, I can say, based on the conversations we had, discussions we had at the board, the biggest, one of the most significant deliverables or products we get out of it is the information. And particularly where the market information, so that we know what the value of each choice we make truly is. So, very, very important element of what we're hoping we can accomplish here. glad to be in office during this whole time when money's actually available to do these kinds of things, you know, from the government. So we might as well take advantage as much as we possibly can.
Okay.
Any questions along those lines?
Nope.
Thank you.
Okay. So, tax programs, Mika, you had provided an assessment agreement from 2000.
Is that the one from Bear?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, what I wanted to do is just give you background. And this is one that we actually use. As a matter of fact, from what I can tell, and I could be wrong about this, this is just based on the asking for information and what I received. This seems to be one of the only ones that we've actually done. And it was interesting because I think if anybody who was working on that at the time, or you were to talk to anybody, they'll say, I wish we had put a clawback on it. Because what they did is they did build a building, you know, so we did get a new structure out of it. But they stayed for way less time than we anticipated that they would, and then they moved out, and that was that. But I just wanted more for perspective, more for ideas, more for thoughts. I would like us to have a program, and I would like it to I would like it to be a tool for us to use. And as Dale mentioned, I think it's important that we identify strategically how we would use it. But I would like it to be a tool. So I'd like I'd like this commission to consider that one, the one that was put together by Jeremy and that team, and the one that Scott and Brian have worked on, which I think took that into consideration, if I'm not mistaken.
We really built off of it
Yeah.
2 years later.
So that part should be, you know, from one to the other should be kind of quick and easy, hopefully. But I'd like the commission to really come up with it and determine exactly what we can do and do the necessary due diligence to make sure that if the board is going to consider it, we have all the information we need. So I don't know that we necessarily need to get into them today, Scott, but I just wanted to make sure that you knew it was there, could review it and prepare.
Could I take an advantage, can we take an advantage and ask before you get your hat on?
I'm staying till the end.
Oh, good. Yeah, I saw you talking. So the incentives, that, you know, the sort of the tax incentive programs that our prior Economic Development Commission has been working on. I was reading some stuff earlier about when 30 years ago, you know, the congressional reports on that, saying the vote's kind of not in whether they're effective in isolation, whether they're effective in accomplishing what we want to do, whether it's attract, maintain, or create. But because I see we have design guidelines, you know, sort of on the horizon in the 2030s, the potential next step, and so whether you're dealing with form codes, you know, zoning or design standards or design guides, do you see like the incentives is it really workforce stuff, or can the incentives on their own be important drivers to, you know, increasing businesses for our community? You know, fix up your place, get a freeze, get an abatement for a while, you know, fix up your place, put some capital investment in to raise our grand list. Is that a be-all, end-all, or does it really have to be focused on combining it with other things to be effective?
Yeah, well, my view is, from being a director for a long time, is that it really needs to be targeted to industries that you want to attract, not just anybody who fixes up a building. And does it work? I just want to ask a question before, you know, just in exploring the answer. You only give the tax incentive on the incremental increase, like almost like a tax increment financing thing, right? You don't give it to the whole property. In other words, if you add 1,000 square feet onto your building and put $200,000, I'm just making up a number, but the building was worth $500,000 to start, you're only giving the incentive on the investment part, correct?
On the increase in the assessed
The
value.
increase, right. So the other thing to look at always is, what does it truly increase? Because I've run across incentives. You offer an incentive to somebody, and very often, by the way, the incentives are for people who are already here for business retention purposes. They're expanding, you know. But what they invest and what the increase in the assessment are very different things. So if they just replace a roof on a building, and they do ADA improvements, do lighting, you know, whatever, that $200,000 they spent probably only increased the assessment $70,000 or 60, it's not 200,000. Because you're not paying the architect, you're not getting, the value isn't the architect, it's, you know, the demolition that they did, it's the new things they add, right? So if you replace a roof with a roof, you really didn't improve the assessed value, you improved the property, certainly. So I think I'm less excited about incentives than I used to be. I think when you have high taxes like Hamden has, I saw the incentives as a really important thing because it was frightening how much taxes were going up. You know, so if your tax rate is low enough right now, I would really think about the targeting of it for specific industries to invest money in building something. The more you impede a business's ability to operate, given this volatile climate that with inflation and all these things, I think it could be a negative. That's my personal opinion about incentives. So there's been a lot of studies about, in Connecticut, the enterprise zone program. The other thing is, I know I keep going off on these tangents, but if the state statute, it depends on the statute that empowers you to offer this incentive. Is it a state statute, 1265B or whatever?
1265B.
Okay. So that gives you the power to control who you give the money, the incentive to. That's the other thing when I talk to people about incentives. If it's an enterprise zone or something like that, that's a federal thing, you have no choice. With a good lawyer, they're gonna sue you to get that benefit. This happened to East Hartford when, what is it, UCC or whatever, the big defense company in East Hartford put like a $40 million addition on their building. They wanted the 80% tax abatement. And the town of East Hartford did not want to give it to them. UCC, I think it is. They won the case because it was a federal enterprise zone. You don't really have a choice. You have to give it to them. But you're doing it under state statute. You could say we only want to do these industries or these NAICS codes, SIC codes or NAICS codes. You could pick what you wanted. You don't have to offer it to everybody. But I'm not as excited about it, Scott, as I used to be. It's sort of a philosophical thing. You want to really offer it more for existing businesses, sort of as a reward. Thank you for being a taxpayer in Woodbridge. I like that.
Well, Dale, you know, what I'll say is a couple of things. Our taxes are high. If you talk to any of the business owners down there, certainly haven't gotten to enough of them to say absolutely that they feel that our taxes are too high, but certainly any of the ones that I have spoken to,
What's your mill rate?
is 46, 45.
Not low.
40. Okay, right. So it's not Hamden necessarily, but it's up there.
Well, it's
So-
not too far off, actually.
Exactly. So I think it does, from that perspective, I think it does qualify as a means by which to incent people to come in. So, and I'd like to really use this 240 Amity Road property to test this out, if you will.
Yeah, it's a good test because at the end of the day, what you should do is you're gonna look at what they invested and what the actual assessment went up.
Right.
And so for the good publicity you get for offering it, you're gonna find out that 200,000 was actually, it only went up 50,000 times 70% for the assessed,
Right.
times your mill rate, they end up getting $1,200. But you got a lot of good
Precisely.
play out of that, that's the other thing, you wanna play with this a little bit and then study what came out of it.
Understand?
Best Video in Hamden, I don't know if you know those video stars.
Sure.
He put Hank, the original guy, put $300,000 into his building, improved lighting, he did a tremendous job in renovating his building. It had 5 tenants in it. He moved Best Video from wherever it was in there. Did a great job, and he spent $300,000, and the assessment only went up $50,000. We got so much good publicity out of that. Well, we helped Hank. He's not Blockbuster, but the other thing is he changed the number of tenants in the building, which lowers the assessment. If you have more tenants, there's more value. So I guess you want to be strategic about it. You want to study it though, but it's worth pursuing. I think in the long run, it doesn't help you a lot, but you get some good publicity out of it. You want to, if you want to do it, just track it and see how it.
In this particular instance, my view, and I could be dead wrong, I'm not, having not really looked at this closely, but in my view, what I think it's a win if we can attract someone to improve it at all. in a sense. And particularly if it's something very different and something newer than what has been there before, you know, that
As
type
long
of
as
thing.
you can pick, say yes, say no.
Mhm.
And, you know, at what point? There's a declining freeze on the taxes over a period of years or something like that, right? So, you know, if it was 70% the first year, 60% the second year, you don't have to do the full 70%, you know,
I understand.
you could lower that.
Okay. But it certainly could use, you know, I'd like to leverage your help in terms of this particular instance and seeing what we can do here and how it turns out from our perspective. I'd just like to see, it's a general business, the way it's zoned, there is an opportunity for residents to be a part of that. You know, residential to be a part of that.
Raises the value, right.
Correct.
And the sustainability.
Correct.
of it,
Mhm.
because
Correct.
housing is always.
And it would be something very different for that area at this point in time, so I think I just, you know, I view it as an
Yeah.
opportunity.
Mixed-use product's good, because usually the moneymaker is the residential.
So, okay. So that's, you know, again, if you, on your next, as you're going on,
Right.
Mhm.
something to consider.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Great. So, the next item are just the November and December minutes. We need to approve those, so no one here
Just a straight vote since they're.
in attendance,
Right.
so, can I get a motion to approve November
So
and-
moved.
and December? Can we do them
Second.
both at the same time?
Can.
Okay. November and December?
And we're all recuse ourselves, right?
No, that's
no.
no votes. You vote because it's a new board, so you can still vote.
Right, they were
And watch the
circulated.
video.
Yeah, we got the
I
videos.
did watch the videos.
You watched the video? I watched the
You
video.
could choose
I watched the video.
to abstain if you didn't.
Okay.
I did
Okay.
not, I
But
apologize.
if you did, you can vote. So I
Okay.
sent the minutes and the links to the meeting.
Okay.
So I think it was,
I
Steve
second.
and Rich seconded it. Rick,
And all in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
two abstained.
Okay.
Sorry.
Tony, do we, this meeting have to develop, I forgot to ask you this, well, we don't have it on the agenda, but, the meeting schedule.
I did circulate that to everyone.
Mhm.
Okay.
I meant to print it,
No
but you
problem.
know, we had internet issues
Right.
today,
Yes,
so
we did.
I could not.
And we had previously approved all the meetings.
Oh,
We
that's
did,
right,
and
Yeah,
I
you did that
think
last
That's why it
meeting.
wasn't on the agenda, that's right,
Right,
last year.
so we had.
We did that last meeting.
So,
We had voted on that.
At
Thank
the
you,
next
Scott.
meeting, I'll bring, the next meeting's
Yeah.
March 17th.
14th.
And then I'll bring the schedule,
Yeah.
and I'll recirculate it, because I know we did send out a lot of
Mhm.
material.
I'll apologize in advance, I will not be able to make the March 14th meeting,
Okay.
but virtually every other meeting I should be able to at least make if you guys, if you're so inclined to have me, so.
That's great.
Okay. And the next step is just a motion to adjourn.
Can I ask a question
Nope.
first? We talked about incentives and statutes that allow the incentives. Can somebody direct us to the statutes just so we can be familiar with them?
So the way I find it is I just Google, I just go CGS, Connecticut General Statutes, and for instance, this particular one is 12-65
I
B.
think it might have actually been referenced
In there, yeah.
in the one Mika did, or.
With Bear.
Feel-
Okay.
And there's others in
Uh,
that section, Shouty, as well.
yeah.
For instance, there's one on affordable housing, for instance, you can offer incentives and then the tax abatements, and that's like, it's in there 1265H or something like that.
Right, so it's
Yeah.
actually 1281 is what's referenced in here.
In the BEAR document?
Yes.
Okay.
CSG
But
is
the
pretty
ones
key.
1265 B.
1265 B
You know
are the
that?
ones we're discussing
And
in,
Right.
that helps a lot.
Right.
in the document.
What is it, Connecticut State
Connecticut General Statutes,
CGS?
CGS.
CGS, not
Yeah.
CSG.
And then you'll see them, and then your taxation is 12, like housing stuff is 8, and municipality 7, section 7 of those Connecticut General Statutes.
Great, thank you.
One other question. I want to say it was in the November meeting, there was a question posed about getting a list, and to your point about getting an idea of what businesses are here. Is that something that's available, and is that list by industry, or how is it set?
The list that was referred to at that meeting was more of a general list that was maintained And some of the issues that we realized is that individuals were signing up for businesses, but we didn't know the business name.
Okay.
And we also found that it didn't have necessarily appropriate contact information. But with that said, I think we could check with the assessor's office because there may be a code in terms of what type of business it is. I do not know that for certain, but it's certainly worth asking.
We'll take that as an action item,
Yeah.
Cliff, and find
Yeah.
out specifically
Great.
what we can do and how detailed we can get it. But that's.
Some of the
that's-
state agencies have a way to search it too. So the Secretary of State, although you get way too much information when you go there. Department of Labor, if you put in NAICS codes, it'll tell you by industry who's here, but this is a great thing for an intern.
Our fellow.
Fellow,
Our fellow, please,
fellow.
please, our
I would
fellow.
think the
the
assessor
fellow supervises the end of
would
it.
have it, right?
She does.
Someone's got a list of where to go get the money, right?
So Tony, what we might wanna do on that as well is also like divvy it up into the top taxpayers as well, cause I know we've had that list done before.
Isn't that in the annual budget then? In the town budget, references to top,
Your
at
assessor
least.
also has a list of who
And you're gonna get
makes
that.
declarations of
Right.
equipment, manufacturers.
Good point, thank you for remembering that.
They would have that.
I think she did.
Yes.
So, does anyone make a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Second.
Thank
All
you.
in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks.